In this brief video, I am going to go over how we use Google Fonts. Google Fonts has much expanded what we as web designers and developers can do. The print world has always had robust and virtually unlimited supply of fonts available to them, but up until recent years, up until about 2010 or 11, the web has really only had a handful of fonts that could be guaranteed to show up on a website. For example, if I wanted to use a font that, like even Adobe Garamond, it's not necessarily a particularly fancy font, but it's a really nice serif font that would give my site a particular feel. But I can't guarantee that everybody's computer has Adobe Garamond installed on it. So what I would have to do if I wanted to use that font is I would have to create those as image files and include image files on my website. There's lots of reasons why that's problematic. One of the reasons, of course, is that it's a graphic and not an actual type style, meaning that I would have to insert these graphics all over my website, and I would have to go into Photoshop or Illustrator and create all of these. If I discovered I had a typo or I needed to make a change, I'd actually have to go back into my graphic and make these adjustments, resave the graphic and upload it to my website and make any necessary HTML changes. The other issue has to do with search engine optimization because images do not have the same weight when it comes to the algorithms used by search engines like Google to find these fonts. This is why most web designers and developers just used the standard fonts and had to work with what they were given to ensure that everybody had the same or similar experience. Then Google came along in about 2011 is really when it truly kicked off and started building this fantastic font library. So I'm going to go through how we can incorporate this. The awesome thing is Google Fonts, you can use them for both print and web. You can download them so that you can install them on your computer. It can be a PC, it can be a Mac, that part doesn't matter. And so then you can use it in Photoshop or InDesign or wherever else that you would like to use them. When you're using them for the web, they've also made it really easy. And by doing so, it's actually the font is hosted on one of Google's many redundant web servers around the world, and that way people can actually see your font, and incorporating them is really easy. I'm at the Google Fonts main page, and you can see there are 818 font families right now. And they've got them by category, so we have serif, sans serif, display, handwriting, etc. And you can search if you're looking for a particular font. You can limit the styles, you can look at languages, and we can scroll through. There are tons of them. The other thing is you can do a preview right here of what it's going to look like. So you can change the font size. You can go in and highlight and type your own words. So I'm just going to do, since this was what we're kind of looking at, you can see what it's going to look like with the exact words that you want to use to determine if this is what you want. When you find a font that you like, you can go and click this little plus. It adds it to this family selected at the bottom of the page, and you can keep scrolling and looking. Now, for example, I know that I wanted to use a font called Bubblegum Sans. I've looked it up before, just typed in a few letters into the search, it comes up. So we have Bubblegum Sans and Bubbler 1. Well, I want Bubblegum Sans, so I'm going to add it to my family of selected fonts. And then I'm going to go down to the black bar that's here and click on the white little dash to open up this window. I've decided I don't want this pangolin font, so I'm going to deselect it by clicking the minus. It's going to remove it. As you can see, you can click as many as you would like. Now it's going to give you some options. What we want here is the embed, because this will allow us to use these fonts on our web page. You can see when I scroll down, it's giving me some options. And one of the things that I need to do is I need to use this @import. And I'm going to use @import to include it on my style sheet. As you can see, they have it set up so that you can include it directly as an internal style on your web page. But I just want to include this on my external style sheet, so I don't need the word style. I don't need those tag elements on either side. So I'm just going to copy this line right here. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go into my web editor. So I've got a Dreamweaver page open right here. This is a CSS document, and I am going to paste it right at the very top of my document. If you're using Dreamweaver, you will know that it's done correctly because the words @import URL are in kind of this teal color, and the actual link to the font is in this kind of green color. You're going to notice that because this is a 2-word font, it has this plus symbol in between. So now I've got this selected. It has to be at the very top of your CSS document. Now, if I want to apply it to a style, all I need to do is say I want this to be for all of my H1s in my document. I'm going to create my element selector, open and close that style rule, and then I'm going to go back to the Google website. I'm back at the Google website, and now it says this is how we specify it in our CSS. I'm just going to copy this whole line. So again, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my Dreamweaver file, and I'm going to paste it right in my style. So it gives me the font family. It says to use Bubblegum Sans, and because when we use fonts, we use what are referred to as a font stack, meaning that if a user's computer can't locate, or for some reason because we're using a Google font can't render the actual Google font that we specified, for some reason it can't reach the web server or something, then it has a default to fall back on. And in this case, it's going to look for Bubblegum Sans first, separated by a comma, and then it's just going to look for whatever your computer or the user's computer has designated as its generic cursive font. If you don't want it to be cursive, you can come in here and change it and say, if they don't have Bubblegum Sans, I just want to use a sans serif font that would be whatever is generic, so such as Arial. This is how we add them to our website. And that's all there is to it to add a Google font. Just a quick recap, we go out to Google, we locate a font that we like, we add it to our family of selected fonts, and then we use the import information and highlight what it is that we want. And then we paste that into our web editor right at the top of our CSS page. And then we decide how we want to specify it. We copy that and we paste that within the appropriate style rule and the declaration that we've set up. That's all there is to it. If you want to use these locally on your computer, simply click the little download button and install it as you would any other font. Have fun looking and playing around with what you can do.